I remember the first time I stepped into this mega church. The atmosphere was electric, filled with anticipation and hope. Pastor Onassis stood tall at the pulpit, his voice booming, "Your life is not moving forward because something is blocking you." I felt a chill run down my spine. People nodded, and I could see a woman in the front row wiping tears from her eyes. "In the spirit, I saw chains on many of you," he continued, his eyes scanning the congregation. "But God said, there is a way out." That was his hook. My heart raced, I felt as if he could see straight into my soul. I was captivated. The next Sunday, Pastor Onassis returned with more fervor. "I did not sleep last night," he declared, breathing heavily. God opened my eyes. He pointed at a man in a blue shirt. "Your mother's house is fighting you." The man froze, then collapsed. It was incredible. From that moment, I couldn't doubt him. I had to know more. As the weeks passed, I observed everything closely. I watched how fear gripped the congregation, how the pastor's words transformed hope into desperation. Little did I know, a storm was brewing, and I would soon find myself at the center of it all. One evening, Pastor Onassis announced, "God spoke to me during my prayer last night. There are 12 people here. If you don't act fast, your opportunity will die." The urgency in his voice sent a wave of panic through the crowd. People jumped to their feet, their faces a mix of fear and determination. "If you are one of them, bring 100,000 Nigerian nairas now. I will pray a dangerous prayer." My heart raced as I watched wealthy men rush to the front, throwing money into the offering basket like it was their last chance. I felt a knot in my stomach. It didn't stop there. The following week, he whispered, "This is not for everybody." He raised a small key. "This key will open closed doors, but it must be activated $1,000. Only those who are serious." Men and women scrambled to donate, desperate for a miracle. Abel, my friend, stood beside me, eyes wide. "This feels wrong," he murmured. I wanted to agree, but I felt trapped in the web of faith and fear. My mind raced with questions. What was happening to our church? I could see the excitement and anxiety in the faces around me. Each week, the stakes grew higher, and I felt myself being pulled into the whirlwind of desperation. It was all too much, yet I was too scared to leave. Pastor Onassis seemed to thrive on the chaos he created. One Sunday, he suddenly declared, "I saw death moving in this church." Gasps filled the air, and people began to tremble. But God showed me special water. He held up a bottle like it was a treasure. "If you drink this water for 3 nights at midnight, any spirit of death will pass you." People rushed to the front, grabbing the bottles as if their lives depended on it. I watched, horrified, as fear consumed the congregation. They believed him, and they were terrified. I turned to Abel, who looked pale. "This isn't right," I whispered. Then Pastor Onassis raised the stakes even higher. "God said some of you are cursed from birth. That's why you are not making any progress in life. No amount of prayer can change that." Tears streamed down faces as he continued, "You must bring a family picture and place it on this altar with a seed of $500. My heart sank. People were already struggling to make ends meet, yet here they were, sacrificing everything for the pastor's words. I felt a growing anger rise within me. How could he do this? How could he exploit people's faith so cruelly? The church had become a marketplace, and I felt like a bystander in a tragic play. I watched as another woman bought the so-called favor perfume. "This is not ordinary perfume," Pastor Onassis said, grinning. "Any woman that uses this will be noticed for marriage." Sister Esther rushed forward, a gleam of hope in her eyes. "Use it for 7 days and come back with your testimony," he promised. I couldn't help but feel a mix of disbelief and pity. As the days passed, the testimonies began pouring in. Some women claimed they found love, but many others, including Esther, reported nothing at all. I could see the desperation on their faces as they returned to Pastor Onassis, seeking answers. "If it doesn't work, it means there is a deeper problem," he told them, his voice dripping with false sympathy. The cycle continued, and I felt helpless as I watched my friends become ensnared in this web of lies. I knew something had to change, but I was unsure how to act. Every week, the church buzzed with excitement and anxiety. The pastor's promises seemed to pull people further into his grasp. I felt stuck between wanting to believe and knowing something was terribly wrong. The night that changed everything was a Friday vigil. The church was packed, excitement buzzed in the air. I sat beside Abel, who was visibly anxious. Pastor Onassis stepped onto the stage, sweat glistening on his forehead. "Tonight is not normal," he declared. "My topic today is, you will not die." He paused, letting the tension build. While praying, God showed me a coffin. Gasps erupted from the crowd, and I felt my heart race. It had someone's name in this church. A woman fainted. "But God said it can be cancelled," he continued. The room hung on his every word. "If you want your name removed from death, come out with $5,000, $1,000, $500, or 50,000 Nigerian nairas." People surged forward, crying and shaking, desperate to save themselves. I sat frozen, watching as my friends rushed to the altar, throwing money like it was their last hope. Abel, however, sat in silence, and I could see the turmoil in his eyes. "Why do I feel like I'm losing everything?" he whispered. I didn't have an answer. I was filled with conflicting emotions, and I felt trapped in a storm of desperation and fear. Abel's silence was deafening as chaos unfolded around us. I felt the weight of confusion and anger pressing down on me. How could this be happening? Why were people so willing to pay for salvation? I looked at Abel, his hands trembling. He suddenly stood up, his voice breaking through the noise. "Sir," he shouted, and the entire congregation turned to him. "Why does every prophecy end with money?" Pastor Onassis paused, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "You don't understand spiritual things," he replied, but Abel pressed on. "Show me where Jesus sold keys, water, oil, or perfume." The air shifted, tension crackling like electricity. Abel continued, "Show me where he collected money to cancel death." His voice trembled with emotion. I felt my heart race. This was the moment we'd been waiting for. An old man in the back stood up, voice quaking. "I paid last week. My son still died." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd, and then a woman sobbed, "I have bought everything, nothing changed."